Hi, friends. In our time together today, I want to revisit the conversation about the low D whistle grip. I know we've talked about this a couple, three times before, but I think it's really important to revisit this conversation. And I so want you, more experienced players who are comfortable with your grip, I would love for you to chime in. You see, we have a number of new players joining our group, and some people have just received their whistle. Other folks are still waiting for their first low D whistle to arrive. So I want to address this a little bit. Your concerns in deciding where to put your fingers over the holes are just a few. First, adequate hole coverage when you play. If you're playing your whistle and you can't cover the holes well, you need to fix your grip. Comfort is very important. Some folks will say, my hands are cramping, my fingers are going numb. If that's happening, we need to look at your grip. Some people say, I'm in too much stress and I can't play easily. That might be that you just got started and your fingers aren't used to this. Or it might be you should look at your grip. For me, an important thing is stabilizing the whistle. And I wanted to be able to use my little fingers to do that. And so without covering any holes, I can move the whistle around. And I like my thumbs and my little fingers doing that job. But that's not how everybody stabilizes the whistle. Some people use the little finger and the thumb on the top hand and the ring finger and thumb on the bottom hand. It works just as well. A lot of times when you're playing open notes up here, you could put your ring finger over the hole and it's not going to bother the tone. That's perfect. Or you could even move it just below. It's perfectly fine. Because if you're playing down here, if you're playing anything other than a B or a C sharp, the whistle's you're gonna be able to stabilize it with those multiple fingers. So don't worry about that. So hole coverage, comfort, ease of play, stability are the issues that come to mind. Now you're gonna see fingering charts, but before that, let me tell you the tendencies I see most often. Somebody will grab the whistle and they'll think, grab the whistle. Well, that you try and do that, notice how my wrists are cramped, my wrists are turned funny, my fingers are cramped. I'll never play well and I'll never cover the holes and I'll set this thing aside and not come back to it. This could be fixed. So your wrists should be in line with your arm and your fingers should be pretty much in line with your wrist. You've got a little range of motion where you're pretty free and you're not pinching your wrists, but you start getting past too much and you're starting to pinch your wrist. Open your hand up, and that's easily, without stretching it, that's about as comfortable as you're going to be stretching your hands. And on a low D whistle, as we've talked about with some of the hole spacing charts that I'm making, when you're covering the holes, notice if I go to the bottom hand with what is often called a full piper's grip, that is, I'm using the middle pads of my fingers, I can get like a finger and a half in there. And not everybody's comfortable separating their fingers that much. It's why manufacturers like Carbony make the whistles they do with close hole spacing. And it's why other manufacturers are working on other solutions. But let's look at some possible solutions for how to cover the holes and cover them well, adequately, consistently, and be comfortable. So as we do that, my question to you, if you are at all comfortable with your grip, in the comments below, please say the grip you use. A lot of people, here's the standard grip a lot of people say, and I'll talk while I stand. You take your right hand and you take your ring finger, the pad of your ring finger, and you place it over the hole. You put the whistle near your mouth and you get your hand relaxed. However relaxed your hand is with the thumb behind that top hole, that's your grip. Then you should be able to, holding it like that, you should be able to consistently return to cover those holes. That's great. And then that comment goes, place your thumb behind that fourth hole and the pad of your ring finger there, and then put the whistle kind of near where you're going to play it, and let your wrist and arm relax and your fingers relax, and then angle your hand so that your lower fingers are as comfortable as possible. Look at that funny, I call it a funny grip, but that's a great grip. Watch some of these folks play. Watch them play, and you'll see a lot of them do something like this. So that's the pad of my ring finger, and then that's falling on the middle of both of my first two fingers on the 4 and 5 hole. Now, I have not played that way much, so you'll notice I had some hole coverage issues. If you say I'm starting to learn to play and I'm having hole cover issues, I'd say 90% of the time it's that you're not yet comfortable with that finger muscle memory returning back to where it goes. So the first way to hold the whistle is probably going to be, this is one of the options. Then another option, but if you do that, you're going to stabilize the whistle with the ring finger on your lower hand, because stability of the whistle is just as important, especially if you're playing a C sharp. Now for me, I wanted to use my pinky fingers to stabilize the whistle. It's my own preference. But notice to do that, my hand's smaller. I rotated my hands in, okay? And so I'm getting the separation for these two fingers. Notice how that's expanded. My finger is a little wider. If you rotate your hand up and use just the pad of the ring finger, notice how the separation isn't for that 5th and 6th holes, not as far. It opens up a little bit when I pull my hand in. But I'm more comfortable that way, and even my small hands can still cover the hole. I think it's important for you to find what works for you. So I like I could just as easily teach myself to play and I have a few hole coverage issues there, but practice would work them out. So take your whistle in your hand, make sure your hands are relaxed. Put the whistle around where you're going to need to play it, side, front, whichever. Get your hands, your forearms, your wrists relaxed. See if you can cover the 4th and the 6th holes with the pad of your ring fingers, and then see how your hands rotate in for when you're playing. And don't pull your hand way back there. Let your hand be so that your fingers can be relaxed. You want to have relaxed fingers. Wherever your fingers land for you to hold the whistle, to stabilize it in the way you want, and for you to cover the holes well and consistently, is probably the grip for you. Some people say, you've got to go with a full piper's grip. Some people say, no, you need to go with the standard grip. Some people say, no, you need a modified grip. I say, you find what works for you, but it's going to take you a little time. because your fingers, if you've not played a low D whistle before, your fingers are going to take some time to get used to it. Before we got started, I was watching Phil Hardy play. It almost looks like he's got his fingers kind of wrapped a little bit on it. Everybody's slightly different. So, find out what works for you. Again, you experienced players, please chime in. How do you hold your hands? I hope I don't cause you grief by pointing it out. And if you're new, try this or this and see which of those is more comfortable for you, particularly in the spread between the 5th and the 6th hole. Because how you hold your fingers will help dictate how comfortable you're going to be there. I hope this conversation helps, my friends. I look forward to hearing from you all as well. Until next time, this is Scott Shade. Happy low D whistling, and take your time getting your fingers comfortable.